exciting episode of Creative Genius. So this one's a little interesting. All right, so we're going to travel around the world. All right, in the Netherlands. We're going to start in the Netherlands, and we'll come all the way back around and end up in Milwaukee. All right, so the three individuals that you see with it here us today make up the company that's called Rift AR. All right, AR meaning augmented reality. All right, so we're going to get a chance to share we're going to get a chance to hear their story about how they came to be. First, I guess in the computer world as a passion first and foremost, how they came as a company, and how they all formed the team that's called Rift today. So they've been dropping some nuggets since they got on camera. So Amilyn had to stop me and tell me to hit record. So we can make sure we didn't miss anything. But Adam assured me that they're good at repeating themselves. So they've assured me that they won't leave out anything by the time we're done. All right. So I'm going to start with Carol. How you doing, Carol?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right. And you're the one that's in the Netherlands, correct?
Yeah, currently in the Netherlands.
Cool. So it's 8 o'clock in the evening?
Yeah, it's already dark outside. So
already. Okay, cool. All right. Is that where you're from?
No, I'm originally from Poland, but I moved to the Netherlands 2 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. What's the weather out there?
Rainy. Always rainy. Yeah.
Always rainy.
Yeah.
Okay,
always
so
rainy.
I'll scratch the Netherlands off my list.
No. I mean, it's an amazing place to visit.
I'm just joking. I'll come to the Netherlands. I'll come. Cool. All right, next we got Mike. Mike, how you doing?
I'm chilling. I'm doing fantastic. Time zones and sleep schedules and all of that should be something else. I'm chilling. I'm doing good.
Good. I like the backdrop you got there. Very calm and serene and chill. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's sort of calm. It's the outer calm to the inner storm inside. You know what I mean?
Because I got you. I got you. Cool. Adam, what's good?
I'm chilling, man. Excited to be here.
Good. Glad to have you guys. Glad to have you. All right. So I guess I already talked sports with Mike a little bit, but Adam, do you guys think you'll repeat as far as the NBA championship is concerned in Milwaukee? What's your take on it?
I think the Phoenix Suns look pretty good this season. I'm not going to say anything about the NBA until after the trade deadline, though.
Gotcha.
I'm a diehard NBA fan. I'm just going to wait until the trade deadline and we'll see what happens. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Oh man, I forgot. Last but certainly not least, Amilyn, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. I'm in Phoenix, so.
Man, I forgot all about it. You being in Phoenix. Okay, so we're really traveling today.
Right. I'm so excited to hear y'all's story though, because of, I have a few adult friends that are still very much into Pokemon Go. So augmented reality is something I use all the time. In the pandemic, we were using those QR codes as menus and all kinds of stuff. So I'm excited to see what you guys do, because also with locations, I think that's really important that we take this planetary system that we got building and we keep it local too. So I'm excited to hear y'all's story. Absolutely.
Now, how'd you guys all come together? I think that's a very neat story. How'd you guys come together?
Yeah, I can start off here. So around the time that COVID hit, I had just walked away from a startup that I helped bootstrap, and I started just reevaluating everything. And I realized that I lost a lot of connection with some of my childhood hobbies, like painting. I was obsessed with painting when I was a kid.
All right.
So I began painting during COVID, and I would just upload my paintings on Instagram, and I wasn't really expecting much. I never really sold art at that point. And suddenly my DMs just popped off. I had all these people trying to buy all these, they were NBA paintings actually. And people were like, oh, can you make a so-and-so? Can I buy this one? And within 3 months, I sold 100 paintings. And it became
3 months?
Yeah, 3 months. It became a really solid side hustle during COVID. And Michael is someone that I've been friends with since 2016. And he reached out, he purchased one of my paintings. And he's always been someone that I've traded creative notes with. If he's working on something or I'm working on something, hey, can you look at my pitch deck? Can you help me out with this? Or let's just chat and hang out because he's great with philosophy and whatnot. So Michael purchased one of my paintings and he's like, hey man, have you looked into like blockchain art or like digital art at all? I'm like, that kind of makes a lot of sense because I'm spending so much money on materials, paints, markers, canvases, and then I have to ship the painting and the cost of that varies every single time. And I was like, I should probably dabble into this a little bit. And at the time, Michael was working in a disruptive lab at UW Milwaukee that was focused on blockchain at the time. And so he introduced me to NFTs when, no one was really talking about NFTs for the most part in like late 2020. And so I just started like dabbling in the space and I made a few collections. And ultimately I was like, Michael, we need to start building in this space. We need to just start researching, put some things out there, and let's just be as creative as possible and build some cool shit for this space. Because right now, it leaves a lot to be desired when you go into these different like blockchain, like NFT platforms, and you play around with wallets, and it's just super beta and behind in the times. So yeah, Michael and I began researching. We began building in public. So I think that's a really big thing for us is rather than being in like stealth mode or not telling anybody about our idea, we just put it all out there. And as like the company changes, we kind of just roll with the punches and just keep putting it out there. And that's what attracted Caro to us is, it was just a 2-person show. And it wasn't going to have success for scaling, but building in public definitely started attracting people, and it attracted her network from the Netherlands and whatnot. And suddenly, we got a pretty strong team here, and we're moving forward. So yeah.
Right.
I love what you said, building in public. I mean, Web 3.0 really is about community. And a lot of times when we build it, we expect them to come, right? Web 2.0. And now, we're building. So being able to tell that story from the get-go and the ups and downs along the way, the journey really brings community together. That's amazing that you guys found that from the beginning.
Yeah, we were kind of hitting pause on launching our Discord and everything because, again, it was just Michael and I, and we were talking to an investor. He's like, dude, you're already building in public. Just launch the Discord. And we're like, oh, we kind of want to like lock in someone that would run the community and be one cohesive message, someone that's there from day one. He's like, dude, just launch. Like, why not? And so we launched the Discord, and obviously it really wasn't doing that much, but we just kept plugging it on LinkedIn, and Carol found us. And she's like, this is really cool. And, we fully subscribed our whitelist a week and a half ago. It wouldn't have happened without building in public and bringing on someone that had a community building experience.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing now. I mean, Amilyn can go just a little bit in depth about, what we're doing and how we're building as a collective. But I mean, pretty much that's what we're doing. We're building our organization in public as well, and that's how we got to you guys. To be honest with you, so it's just connecting the dots. I mean, as you go. I mean, it really is a build it as you go type mentality. You really don't have a lot of time to sit around and think because the thing is going so fast, right?
Exactly.
You really don't have time to really sit and think and plot your next moves. Your next move better be your next move. I don't know if that makes sense. You better be moving while you're plotting your moves.
If I would have sat around with my paintings and waited till they were completely perfect to upload them, I would have never have sold one. It would have never have led Michael and I to have this connection. So it's all about just like putting something out there, trusting your gut, and seeing how people react to it, and it'll bring a community behind it.
Absolutely.
There's a very good kind of like philosophy in software engineering is the goal is not to be perfectly correct all the time, right? Because there's only so much that you as an engineer can do. The goal is to be not incorrect, if that makes sense. Because you can do things 100 different ways, but as long as the methodology, the thought that goes into it is at least not incorrect, it's going in the right direction, like that's all you need. Sure, the goal may be a mile away, but how do you get that goal? You take a step forward,
Right.
And
Right.
We have to always start, and then there's space for development, and that's our approach.
But
Yeah.
but in this space, would it be crypto, NFT, AR, VR? So it's so new, right? Nobody really knows, how to build it, which is the most fascinating thing in the world, right? So you get to add your touch, your thoughts and your ideas, and just build on it. You put it out. If they like it, you're going somewhere. If not, you pull it back. You retool. I mean, you refine, and you put it back, right? You put it back in the market for the public to kind of make a decision on. So um, there is no right or wrong. You just build it, put it out, and see what happens.
Michael's really on some innovation right now, to be perfectly honest, because like we were saying before we hit record, is there aren't too many companies that have dabbled in AR and allowed their software or like their code to be open source. It's
Right.
like Snapchat, Pokemon, maybe a few others. So what he's building, there really isn't too much documentation on. There's plenty of documentation on how to launch a smart contract, how to build like an NFT marketplace. That's very well documented at this point. When he's combining some of these new ways of like, transacting, blockchain contracts with augmented reality, putting those together, that's something special. And launching it from to be mobile native is also, that's
Well,
day one. We want to be mobile native.
Let's back up just a little bit. So we're
Cool.
talking about AR, augmented reality, but let's not assume that our audience knows what that is. Can we break that down into the most simplest form and explain what exactly is augmented reality? What's AR?
Yeah, so augmented reality at its core, just at its most basic, it's basically just a layer, a filter over physical reality. So that can be applied however you want it. If you're walking inside a store, that store may have a filter or a layer that you can go and you can actually view something digitally through your camera as opposed to physically through your eyes, thus extending the amount of information you can get from just a normal interaction.
Can't hear you, Amilyn. What'd you say?
That's sweet. I mean, that the image right here is kind of like that augmented, right? It's basically that, I don't know if it was Minority Report or something, the movies where they're like doing the screens in the air.
Yeah.
That's augmented reality. All that data is able to get there.
So in the movie, what's the
What
movie?
was that?
Black Panther. Black Panther.
Yeah, Blade Runner, Minority Report.
Got you. Okay.
So we're familiar with it in the fantasy sci-fi kind of, it's in humans' minds.
Right.
We just haven't made the leap to how do we use this in our day-to-day. You guys, I'm really interested in the spark of an idea, right? How did this come to be where you decided to actually make your final product? So tell me about the spark that led to, hey, this is something of value we could do.
Yeah.
With the Rift.
So it's really simple. Michael and I were trying to come up with a way that we could socialize, bring a social aspect to the NFT market, right? And I literally just had a dream to like an old idea, and it turns out Michael had like the same idea like years ago as well, where I was always obsessed with Craigslist misconnections. It's just like this void where people are trying to connect. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if it was like Pokemon Go, where you could like place like notices like in public, like, hey, I was here and I was looking for you. Or maybe you're in a public space and you're shy and you want to connect with someone, you could just like drop them a message. So I had this idea like years ago. The tech really wasn't there. And as Michael and I were building out this like social marketplace, NFTs, we're trying to like push the boundaries of like what will a social experience be with blockchain. And I had this dream going back to that old concept. And I was like, Michael, we should plug in augmented reality, blah, blah. I had this idea years ago. And he was like, oh my God, I had the same idea. I did like a research project on it. Sends me the research project. And we kind of just fused our ideas together for it.
That's so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting because when I was doing studies at university, I was, in addition to doing blockchain research and AI and IoT, that was part of this the Disrupt technology. On the other side of campus, there was an augmented reality, virtual reality that one was in the art school, one was in the computer science school. I'm a business student. So basically I was just doing all this stuff at once, and I was like, there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot we can tie together in a very interdisciplinary format. And given my interaction with Adam, then, purchasing paintings, trying to make interact more social and more human, augmented reality with decentralized assets just made the most logical sense. It also let me basically lean back into the stuff that I was really most passionate about during college. So not only was it something really cool to do, it's just something that made me really happy to work on.
Good. Now,
Carol,
Karolina,
how did it? How did it call you? We're all like, tell us.
How did you? What intrigued you about the project? How did you come aboard?
I added myself to the Rift Discord group, and I've been following the progress of it. I was like there when there was like 70 people or like 80 people in the group chat. And for some reason, I just really fell in love with the idea. And I just thought, yes, this has a lot of potential. So I participated in the group, I've participated in the development, and then I just decided to, just talk to guys, and we started conversations, and we ended up liking each other and thinking that this can work, we can work together, and that's how it came here.
Right. Now, what's your formal background? What's your?
I was biopsychology and business student.
Really?
Yeah. And actually, I've been in like crypto and metaverse world for quite a while now. So I've been interested in the topic for some time right now.
Wow.
So, it's not something you can learn at university. So you just do your own research and you take pleasure out of it. But yes, I also had a bit of business background before, because in my first year of studies, I opened my tea shop. So this is where I gain a lot of experience in how the business works, how the paperwork works, how the financial engineering works. And this is how I thought, also the main point of the entire tea shop was community building. And was what I realized is extremely important, because if you have no community, and if there's people that do not think this project is where they belong, you will have nobody appreciating it. So this is exactly the same approach I thought, about Rift. This is what we need. We need the community. We're building the community. So that's how we started together.
Big story. That's awesome.
Right.
So, okay, so give us your pitch. Tell us your thing, your idea, end to end, kind of, I can't wait. Rift. Tell us about it.
Rift. Rift.
Yeah.
Rift is So it's an augmented reality platform where users can own and build a digital layer over reality. We believe that the metaverse in the future should be less of like a social video game and more of like a digital enhancement with a direct relationship with our surroundings. I think right now we're being pitched a metaverse through like the lens of Facebook. Facebook's justifying the acquisition of Oculus. So they're trying to sell you like this digital video game, right? And I think that's just kind of goofy to or like the prerequisite to participate on that metaverse is isolation. That's kind of terrifying. And as we can see, people are kind of like it doesn't sit well with people right now. So we think that our option actually can improve the world around us. That's one of the biggest things with building this. How can it serve as an interface for others to build digital enhancements to our surroundings, a seamless bond between our real life and the digital world?
It's decentralized, it's still social, and it's definitely immersive, right? So you're still experiencing it in real life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, tell us about the locations, because it's location specific, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So each location, we've actually gone and we've split up the world into what's really cool is we use what systems already use latitude and longitude. It's called geohashes. but essentially each geohash is just, it's kind of like a box, depending on where you go. Every place on Earth has its own like certain geohash. So we've basically split up the world into kind of like chunks in Minecraft. Like where you go, you're the player. You walk into a new chunk and new things load up. So we've kind of split up the world like engineering like that way. And what people can do is they can buy these, they can own these, they can build in them, and people can kind of create this this cohesive experience where if you're experiencing something in one chunk of the world, you can continue like keep like experiencing new things as you go. And the really cool thing is, as we extend it, we want people to be able, like, for example, if you own a space in front of Times Square, you can lease it to people so that they can build, they can advertise on it, they can put up creative projects and stuff there. It's essentially just all the information you would normally get through a web browser. We want to encourage that through the scope of augmented reality.
That's neat.
So my question is, do I have to own the physical land to own the digital land, or do I just need to get there first?
Nope. It's so there's no prerequisite to own the physical land first. That's actually one of the main reasons why we went with augmented reality of geohashes, because I can't own a building in Manhattan. In this day and age, I can't own a building in Manhattan, but I can own the digital space in front of it, like in the physical world, because it's a digital representation. There's nothing there that's like stopping me from owning. It's like a domain address. If you think about it, it's like you can put something, an application, a website, at a domain address. Same thing with like you can own a digital location, and you can begin editing it. People can go to it. People can interact with it, and no correlation with the actual asset. So.
So bomb. So I do geo mining, right? So on my phone, if I go someplace, I can mine and blah, same kind of thing on that. But it is missing that element of engagement, right? Because I mean, they do have, of course, like the surveys, and you can scan products and that kind of stuff. But to be able to see the creations of other people in that location, and like you said, I love the idea that we can really bring the corporations to the community, right? So if the community wants to do something, they can partner with all these platforms, because I assume that they're going to be multi-layer as they go together. What do you think is the biggest pushback that you've had on just the general idea from people? Because that's always interesting too, to see people's immediate, resistance.
Yeah, biggest pushback is actually, you touched on it a little bit, is like, for example, owning the prerequisite property, right? Because if you, for example, if you own a house in a suburb, right, and you happen to overlap with a geohash, right, what is that? What are the implications? What's really interesting is the way that we're constructing the system. A person also, it's almost kind of like a Snap Stories feature, where a person doesn't have to be, a person can be physically present at the location, but you can actually go and explore the world and other places and see how other people construct like their different hashes. So you can walk around like downtown Tokyo as though you're there, but you're physically like maybe walking down the street or something. So as much an immersive experience as it can be a very physical and very social one at the same time, depending on your surroundings.
That's created by the creators, though, not necessarily the landowners. So when you walk through Tokyo, it would not necessarily be who owns Tokyo Places now. It's the new creators of the platform.
Yes.
So it's like infinite levels of dimensions that we can have, right?
Yep. That's the exact terminology I use. It's an infinite multi-layer of information on society, and the
makes real life feel so dull, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much in reality that the most we get is like when we're in front of our phones and our computers, right? That's when we're most like switched on, because all this information is in front of us. But when we put that information into the physical world, we now have we have more reason now to tie in. We're not switched on or off, like whether we're at home or not. We're constantly like in this very organic human engagement of like, you're in one place and you're acting in one way, you're going in another place, you're acting in another way, but it's never like fully, it's a philosophical question, but yeah.
Oh, I have a question though. So let's say someone buys a geohash, correct?
Mhm.
But I am say like I'm a jazz player and I want to perform in that geohash. How does that work?
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
if you have your recordings, for example, you have your music, it's also, a file you can input, if you want to have your playlist or your own music played in your geohash, you can always add the file into it. It's always possible.
So I can work with the owner of the geohash, kind of create a deal or smart contract, and have my music imported into that geohash. That's where it works.
yep. And also what's really cool, so there you can put in your own files and stuff too. But it can really lead to anywhere that like an internet browser can do. So if you want to put something up for streaming, that's something that we're trying to engineer into the platform as well. What's really cool is, and this is something we're working on right now, is the notion of how can leases, for example, be automatic. Like if, say, for example, you want to rent a location for for a day or something, right? And the owner of the geohash has made it available for lease. Whoever wants it can begin layering their own information on top of it. So those are kind of mechanics that we're working through right now.
Sweet. So augmented
Yes.
Airbnb. So it's like you just like can see it, go there, get the contract, that kind of stuff. So these are NFTs on the blockchain. Basically, anything that you can imagine of value that you can capture in a digital way, be it data or be it imagery or sound or anything like that, you can pin to a location. So let's I'm going to talk about the common entrepreneur, right? Like they have their own talent, service, product. They could just pop up in their location. I'm at home, I'm wherever, or in a location like Las Vegas, whatever's available. Here's the services I provide. I provide consultations. Boom, here's my NFT. They're walking around and they're like, man, they do that. Or I don't know, microblading. That's a big thing now. They walked out and they're like, oh, they do microblading. And so you're engaging and purchasing. Take me through that idea of purchasing, because we're used to going to marketplaces like, we have to go to OpenSea or something like that. How is this like Coinbase now that you could buy NFTs on that? What's going on?
So there's a couple of different layers to this, but from a commerce perspective, what's really interesting, this is integration that we're working with. We're actually talking with a couple of different partners and trying to get crypto fiat integration to work well. Is for example, if you want to put a shop up in AR, or if you want to, for example, even deploy your own micro contract to sell your own NFTs, to sell your own services. Let's say, for example, I'm a consultant and I want to sell an hour of my time, right? I can deploy a micro contract to essentially sell it at that location, or if someone's walking through in Las Vegas and, gambling consultant or whatever, it's all that stuff. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the technology, because it's still so early, but that's where the how you put everything together really matters.
So here's what
You're
I see.
purchasing then. Okay. Cool.
Here's what I see. I see the metaverse has really put business and commerce on steroids, right? I mean, because when you buy in back in the day when CDs were made, right? There were only a certain amount of CDs that were made. After those CDs were sold out, that was it. But with the metaverse, AR, VR, there's no such thing as selling out. You sell out how many you want to put out, or if you sell out, you just put out. I mean, the possibility to sell and create business is on another level. Can you guys talk about that just a little bit?
Well, yeah. All right. This space is already kind of just doused in collectibles, right? NFT, in the entire NFT market is based on scarcity. So it depends. It really relies on like where creators, how many units they want to offer. Same as a record label. A record label is going to print Snoop Dogg's album. Everyone knows who Snoop Dogg is. So they're going to print 300,000 actual physical copies of Snoop Dogg. The new artists that they sign that no one's heard of, they're like, let's print like 50,000 and see what happens, right? So it all comes down, the creator has ultimate say on how many units they want to offer. And a lot of the times, the more scarce, the more, the more it's coveted right now.
Right.
That's how it sits today.
But when we talk about local, because right now on a platform in the world, right, everybody's buying these NFTs. You got to have a community behind it for it to have value and take off. But when you're local, let's say you're a small rural town and you have this, selling coffees as an NFT on a specific location, it doesn't have to be, as far as I'm collecting this for $1 million later. It's just a transaction in that moment. Or I love what they're doing now is annual memberships to coffee shops. You pay so much, and when you're tired of the coffee shop, you sell it. You're like, here, now you have access. Talk about that. What this brings to, like, I always think of rural versus very urban with the diversity.
Coffee shops are always ahead of the game, to be perfectly honest. Like,
really,
when it comes to like QR codes or like app or businesses having their own apps for like to go. Starbucks was way ahead of everyone. Like 60% of their revenue came from their app. Now, the crazy thing about their phone app, it's a bank. You preload it, and then the money kind of just sits in Starbucks's bank, and you get to kind of use it as you go. So Starbucks was like way ahead of the curve on that. I'm really curious to what the potentials are with like a token system on like maybe a DAO coffee shop or something like that. I feel like coffee probably will be ahead of the curve on this and do it successfully.
Yeah, or the really interesting thing, like part of like what I envision, just a little bit, many different things, but for example, you walk into a coffee shop, there's no register, there's no even iPad that you use.
I saw that Amazon has a marketplace like that. You just pick up the product and walk out.
Yeah, cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a few in Chicago. It just doesn't feel right.
But that's the thing, that we've been conditioned in a certain way to accept commerce as like a certain standard. It doesn't feel right, because for decades we've gone into a store, we physically hand over cash and we hand over a card. That's normal. I see coins nowadays and I'm like, ugh.
Those dirty things.
Actually, if you think about it, a lot of people don't realize how digitalized our era already is.
Right.
I mean, every bank transfer, every card purchase, it's already a digital asset, So we're just taking it to another level. And to be honest with Rift, honestly, utility of AR is just a matter of where your imagination goes and where the demand comes from. So honestly, there's so many possibilities it can be implicated in. Right now, it's not even, it's not even in our heads how much it can progress, Like
OpenSea had no idea that NFT art was what they were going to be known for when they launched. They were like, oh, we'll like be a source where people can launch tokens and something. They did not have artwork being their leading source of revenue on their radar 2 years ago.
Your products are infinite as much as the people using them can think of. Now, there are different platforms, though. There's an infinite number of platforms as well, right? So you create a layer over the world. Is it just one layer, or are you allowing infinite layers on top of world, depending on what portal you use, that kind of thing?
It's really interesting you bring that up. So there's so we are kind of looking with like the mechanics of like multiple layers in one space, depending on how things go. Like, for example, if you have Times Square, the surface layer, does there exist like a layer beneath that where someone's now on like someone's now filtering all the info as like Rift layer 2 or Rift layer 3 or something of that nature? So that's always a question, and it's all based on implementation, like if on what people want, on what community wants. If it's beneficial for them, that's something that can obviously be included. What's really interesting with different platforms, and this is something which when kind of architecting this is, to me, like one of the most important things, is that everything becomes as decentralized and open source as possible. And here's why: is you can have an asset tracked on the blockchain, but that data is still hosted or rendered by a company somewhere. It still lives on their servers. If that company's services go down, the actual token doesn't mean a lot. So the notion being is that in open sourcing all the metadata behind the token itself, and our application once we release it, we want to basically make it as resilient as possible. And also, not every for every platform, right? It's sometimes very difficult for developers to go in and build on it, right? Because if you have a big platform and you're a developer, you want to go and like see how you can customize things to just the nth degree. And not a lot of platforms can offer that. So that's something that we want to do as well. And like a person doesn't have to be an AR, like lifelong Unity developer to like work with us ideally, or to work on our platform. They can just be a traditional web developer that knows JavaScript. Because there's far more of those types of developers than there are like 3D developers, you know?
Correct. Yeah. I heard there was only like 20,000 people or something that knew how to make this space, and the demand is getting astronomical.
Yeah.
So
It's insane. So
would you guys be able to teach AR at all?
absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was part of my research when I was in universities, trying to piece it apart, but also how to make it more accessible to individuals. Like you learn information, digest it, and you try to get people engaged with it. And that's a lot of that admittedly goes towards application development, because once you know like the ins and outs of how it works, it becomes really intuitive. But yeah, absolutely.
We have a proposition for you guys. We'll take it offline though. But
we're in the Metaverse of Education. So and on this journey that we're all taking, Web 3.0 and all the components of it, it's like we walk a little bit, we're learning, right? But ultimately humanity, how we move everybody forward is we turn back and we say, hey, give me your hand, let's walk together a little bit. And then they're bringing ideas. So unless we do that, I mean, the future generations are going to teach us no matter what, but at least we can get them on the same walkway that we're going on. I wonder where your guys' first hit is, though. Where's your niche that you're breaking into with this, with Rift? I mean, what are you using? Is it art? Is it collectibles? What are you using first?
I think digital real estate collectors right now. That seems to be where it's like connecting with day one. We've kind of like used a couple different like marketing little campaigns that we threw up on social platforms. Artists think it's cool, but they're not nearly as excited about people that understand physical world real estate that are diving into digital real estate. The people that are interested in collecting Sandbox, Decentraland, this makes a lot of sense to them and they love it. Now, our biggest goal is how do we make this as accessible as possible and bring Gen Z on? Gen Z's kind of lost in the sauce on this. Like they're, you know, it's like all like 33 to 44-year-olds that are participating in this space. So how do we, because the average cost of an NFT or like a piece of land on Sandbox is thousands of dollars. How can we bring that price point down a little bit, keep the gas fees as low as possible, and onboard the generation that's supposed to push us forward? That's the largest generation in the United States. So that's something that we're keeping in mind.
Awesome. That is something when I talk to my students, they're like, yeah, but those are people with jobs that make all kinds of money because nobody could buy that stuff. And I'm like, there's
it too. That's the frustrating thing is it's a large generation and they're already doing it on Fortnite. Fortnite has millions of players. It's this digital world where you put USD into a digital currency to purchase digital goods on this game, right? They're already pretty much doing it. How do we make actual like blockchain contracts, digital real estate, NFTs accessible to that generation? And we recently formed a partnership with Helium Network, and we think that's a good step one, because a lot of times you'll see an NFT like, damn, that's sick, I want that. It's only like $200, like a pair of Jordans or this NFT. I'll go for the NFT, right? And then as you're like closing out the sale, it's like this NFT is actually like $400. You're like, damn, that's like buying 2 pairs of Jordans. I'll just get the Jordans at this point. Yeah. Because of the gas fee. The gas fees on Ethereum layer 1 are just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. What about play to earn?
Yeah, play to earn is an interesting mechanic. The interesting part with it is it really does depend. We were playing with it. We were researching like how could we, for example, if you explore new locations, do you explore the world, and do you like what do you get from that? The really interesting thing is that we were playing with it for a couple different iterations, but for the time, it makes more sense for us. And obviously everything's subject to debate, everything's subject to change, because as systems develop, you may realize, okay, you may want people to go and explore new locations. You may want people to go and put up new pieces of art. You may want people to kind of like refresh the society around them. Like that's a thing. There's a lot of inspiration I take from Helium Network. So what they do is you basically put up wireless routers to basically connect signals everywhere. They have a really cool map for it, but that's kind of like a comparable for that. So it's still something that we're kind of playing around with, but not something primary, because at the end of the day, we want people to have fun building, not spend time like, grinding for something that, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for every creator, you need a consumer, right? So a lot of people are using it for marketing instead of spending marketing money. They're doing the play to earn. Like if you get in and you use this, then you get some. I do geo mining just for fun, and a lot of the things are, start your journey here. When you get there, we'll drop a pin. It's surveys are like all the marketing stuff. Data is king. If you can, get paid for our own data, that will be able to bring a lot of money, or at least resources for that. But yeah, you're right. It's wide open. It's just a matter of how creative can you be with it. I mean, you could put educational in her. If you learn stuff, you get coins, that kind of stuff. Like Coinbase has their learn to earn.
Yep, that's the thing, is that, for example, if you load an educational experience and you complete it, do you get airdropped a token? Like that sort of stuff. The really important thing to and this is kind of like the organic human experience, you know what I mean? Is not have kind of like that that whole thing of like human pushes like pushes a switch and gets a treat, like that sort of thing.
Right.
That's something that in the interest of just research and everything, I want to make sure like things are as organic as possible. But absolutely, if we've tinkered with the notion and are building out, like, for example, if you visit a certain space, do you get incentivized? Can a person, if they own a geohash, can they put something up where a person can get rewarded or get something like, hey, welcome to my geohash, here's some neat free art, or something like that, something like that. So there's a lot to, that can be done in this space, but yeah.
Definitely drives business.
Now, my last question before we close out, you guys just posted your newest development on LinkedIn. Can you kind of go into detail about, first of all, what was it, and then kind of tell the functionality of it, because a lot of people were excited about it. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Our biggest thing that we're doing right now is we're still building the platform out. We're just trying to build an organic community to support it from day one, rather than being like another pump and dump product, right?
Right.
So how do we build a natural community? And it goes back to what we were saying before, is building in public. We're giving people bits and pieces of teaser videos. We're putting them out there and reeling people in and building this organic community. So we a week and a half ago, we opened up a whitelist where if you came into our Discord, signed this form, you're going to be gifted a free piece of land in Rift, right? So we fully subscribed that within 24 hours, and that's great. That's something that we couldn't have imagined like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we're going to keep putting out some of the teaser videos. Michael's working on some of the toughest parts of the code right now, and it comes down to accuracy, because the last thing we want is it to be like Uber, when you order an Uber and the car's like 2 blocks away. We're working on like very precise, luckily Michael's got this in the bag. It's pretty much there.
Give you an idea, this is the type of stuff that like PhD researchers, like you're talking about like sensor data and a lot of different things for like accuracy, that, well, thankfully my background is academic research, so it's something I can go about trying to solve. And that's the biggest thing with all of this, going back to something I said with software earlier. It's not about being the most correct, or being perfect. It's about being not incorrect with methodology, because there's 100 different ways to construct something, but as long as the thought process and the rationale is there, and it's a pretty good one. That's the most important part, and that's how you take steps forward without being paralyzed.
Michael, are you able to find collaborators and people with your skill set that you can work with as well, or is it pretty scarce in the skill set area?
I'd honestly be rather, so finding collaborators, I'd honestly be a little bit surprised finding someone that's augmented reality, blockchain, arts, combined with like business entrepreneurship background that like kind of gets, okay, how do we make sure that at the end of the day, a person can understand, but also potentially monetize and use this as a way to not only build, but also to expand their lifestyle. So I would say it's a little bit tough. But
the amount of friends we have that are trying to build in this space, like, yo, can you plug me with a developer? Like, good luck, man. And luckily, you know, us building in public, it's attracted people that are pretty good at certain pieces of the puzzle that, you know, upon funding and whatnot, we're going to be able to bring them into the equation. Michael can kind of delegate a little bit.
What's really interesting, and this is my kind of like my last tidbit as from the software side. There's a general rule of thumb that the number of software developers or just people that code on Earth doubles roughly every 5 years, right? So you're talking about people that know how to code, you know, including the people that know how to like code in VBA and Python and all that for Excel and stuff like that. But what I'm getting at is it becomes a question of, as you're describing, is it hard to find people? Yes, for now, but that's with every emerging and new technology. For blockchain, for Web3, imagine the number of Solidity developers 2 years ago versus the number of Solidity developers now. Imagine the number of AR developers now versus what it may look like in 2 years from now. So that's always something that I realize is important. And hey, it may be breaking new ground to like be one of the first like people in the space like tackling all this, but that's kind of like the point, is that we're able to set the pace and the cadence for that and really help bring people into this age of development and kind of help set the standard for that.
Yeah, we don't have to wait 6 years for somebody to get through an educational degree to come and help anymore.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Cool.
Awesome. Where do people find you? Where's the best way for them to get involved now that they're freaking out on your concept?
Yeah, I'd say track us down on Twitter. So
Twitter,
Discord. Yeah, so if you follow us on Twitter, you can join our Discord and then kind of jump in with all our other little communities.
Is that Rift AR Twitter?
Rift AR World, WRLD.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. You can also find us on LinkedIn individually, our names, connect with us, throw us questions. Our Discord's there. We have a site, it's riftlife.xyz. We also have that. It's kind of like a gathering point for information. So come in, stop by.
We also have an Instagram page for Rift. Also, we post. Yeah, Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know, but Instagram, is it very active with people that are getting into the space now, or is that your consumer?
Instagram
is consumers. Yeah, but that's good. Reach, right? Yeah, reach.
Still gotta have some placement. Maybe we'll catch some of those people that are new into the space. So it's just kind of a placeholder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to spread that word out there. But you guys, your biggest thing is Twitter. Do you hold Twitter Spaces live?
We haven't really been. We're going to be participating in some Twitter Spaces with Polygon in the next few weeks.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you give us a follow, you'll be in the loop. We're pretty active on there too. So if you DM us or have a question for us, we'll respond.
Okay. Real quick, when we're heading out, I know that Aaron, you got to go, but I just kind of like to hear just a little flip from each of you. 5 years from now, where you're at. 5 years from now, where's this at?
I think it will be a very accessible platform for a lot of users. We want to make it as accessible as possible for now, like since the beginning. So I think in the future, we'll be able to attract a very big audience. And I think it will be a platform that grows a lot and will have a lot of utility within itself.
My home run is, how do we become like a foundation layer for home, life, and work? How can we be a foundation for how smart cities are constructed in the future? You know, that's kind of like the Hail Mary moonshot idea.
That's good. It's good to have them. Michael, what about you?
I want there to be 100 times more augmented reality developers on Earth than there are now. And that's part of open source, decentralization, participate and contribute from anywhere across the world, that sort of notion.
Awesome. You're going to be an amazing educator then, huh? Contributing always
Yes, you
learning.
will be.
We always say if you're gifted with the knowledge, you're gifted with the leading. You know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Good.
All right.
And guys, I'll be in touch because we have some other collaboration opportunities that we'd love to share with you guys. We'd love to get you on board with Onyx and Onyx University, what we're doing in some shape, form, or fashion. So me and Amilyn will both be in touch, or just me. It doesn't really matter. We'll be in touch, and we'd love to continue moving this AR world and this effort forward, guys. If we're going to create more developers, it starts with you, Mike. Start with you, Adam, Carol. All right. So the mission might be placed on you guys' shoulders. You guys up for it?
Down for it.
It's going to happen regardless. Someone's got to do it.
There you go. It's a life worth living is what I always say, huh? This is a life worth living, definitely these times. All right, appreciate you guys. I mean, I think your idea is phenomenal. I'm so excited to see where it goes.
Absolutely. All right, for now, guys, thank you for sharing your time with us. It's been fun. I've definitely learned a lot. Amilyn, she already knows about this world, so it was just a refresher for her.
I didn't know about Rift, and now I do. So I'm going to watch out.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you for
inviting us. No problem at all. We'll be in touch, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Absolutely.
No problem. Have a good rest of your day.
And you as well.
Bye.
All right.